FNaF fan games, a topic that is very controversial right now for some reason. I think we all know about the stuff that's been happening through the community right now, and if you don't worry about it. We've been so focused on fruits and burning in hell and so much other stuff that we've been distracted from the real questions. What is the most obscure FNaF fan game? Now, this question seems like it's one that's virtually impossible to answer. There are thousands of FNaF fan games ranging from Steam to Scratch. You can even make the argument that anytime that there's a shadow drop to amateur FNaF fan game, it takes the title of most obscure FNaF fan game because of how many get produced weekly. If I had to estimate the total, I would say that there's over 1 million FNaF fan games out there. This is including every website that could possibly host one, even Roblox. This means that, obviously, finding the most obscure FNaF fan game is borderline impossible. But I've come up with an alternative. GameJolt is without a doubt the most popular site for hosting FNaF fan games, so big that it has a dedicated page just for them on the website. And GameJolt has a certain tag that sorts the games via how much engagement the page has, fittingly titled Best. Now, what would happen if we scroll down all the way to the absolute bottom of the page, where the most obscure FNaF fan game resides? This was my original plan, but due to circumstances, this seems impossible. This was my first major hurdle when trying to find the most obscure FNaF fan game. There are obviously tens of thousands of fan games on GameJolt alone, enough to get the damn thing its own category, so getting to the bottom of it would probably take really long, but it's not impossible, right? So the way GameJolt's assortment works is that it lets you endlessly scroll through games as you go further down. This normally would be fine enough to find games to play. Not many would think to try to go to the absolute bottom like me because they're not insane. But because I like to cause myself suffering and want to dig some random kid's project out of the grave to review it, this became a problem for me. You see, everything GameJolt loads on the home screen never actually unloads. The links and assets just stay loaded out of sight. This is a problem because if you go down far enough, you will crash the program completely. Think of it as if you were playing Minecraft and the chunks behind you literally just never unloaded. This is unfortunately not something you can circumvent, so I thought this would be the end of the search. But one very particular circumstance made this endeavor possible. I announced on my Twitter, you should go follow me by the way, that I will be participating in the upcoming FNaF Fan Games Direct. This is the first of hopefully many annual events that will show off plenty of fan games to come out in the coming year. Meaning, I was added to a Discord server with its organizers, and a ton of fan game developers. People experienced with coding. So I went in there and simply asked if they know how to get to the bottom of the best page on GameJolt. And, to my shock, one stepped up to the task. GoldenTrashCan, someone who may or may not be present in the upcoming event. But regardless, this absolute madman stayed in a VC with me for 2 hours, screen sharing his progress on getting the best page to reverse itself. There were many hurdles in the way that made me think that the endeavor may be impossible, but he persisted and actually did it. So before we continue, genuinely a massive thank you to GoldenTrashCan for making this possible. His GameJolt and YouTube will be linked below for you to check out. And I'd recommend tuning into FNaF Fan Games Direct on October 29th. I'm in it. Now, no longer keeping you waiting, what are the most obscure FNaF fan games? I mean, yeah, they're underwhelming, but what did you expect? We got to the bottom of a practically bottomless pit. Of course, the final results were just going to be some kids' old projects that may not even work. But honestly, I feel there's a charm to that. Practically no one knows that these games exist. And now I'm going to review what is possibly a literal child's very first attempt at coding something. So I think it goes without saying, don't harass any of these game devs. I'll probably be a little extra with my criticisms, but anything hyperbolic will be solely for entertainment purposes. Just remember to acknowledge that the people making these are most likely very, very young and just making their first project. It's obviously going to be bad. But with that being said though, the final bottom games go in this order. FNaF Murder Location, Five Nights at Treasure Island, Scratch Fan Made, FNaF Remastered Fangame 1, Fetty Da Game, FNaF AR Lite, And the one that sounds the most elusive to me, 7 Nights with Doggies demo. FNaF Remastered never got any sort of actual release, and it got replaced with a Sonic fan game. FNaF AR Lite and Treasure Island Scratch Edition also just do not work and literally blue screen my computer, so we're not going to be covering those ones. This leaves 3 obscure fan games: Murder Location, Fetty the Game, and 7 Nights with Doggies. So, with that being said, let's go in top to bottom order, starting with... Alright, let's open these cameras. Oh. I was intrigued by this game based on its name alone. I mean, with a name like Murder Location, I already expected that I would have no idea what I was getting into. And, oh boy. To my knowledge, this fan game is completely finished, and it's about what you'd expect for being at the bottom of the page. So let's analyze this office real quick.
Pizza, phone.
We got the pizza, the iPhone 4.
The phone is at a different depth perception desk.
It is. This game has zero rhyme or reason as to why things happen. None of the cameras are aligned in an order that makes sense, or any order now that I think about it. The office is just a jolly office with very slight edits, and the cameras are all stolen too. This game is obviously heavily plagiarized, and it's not surprising that it is. It's at the bottom for a reason. But even something as blatant as keeping Jolly in the window of the office just feels even more shameless.
Well, wait. That's like his icon from FNaF 1 Custom Night, but like it's the full version. I've never seen that before.
Where did he get this from?
Where did he get the full version of the FNaF Fox? What?
My buddy Mr. Springs featured throughout the first session of the game, but I decided to go back on my own time. Let me tell you, the nights in this game are some of the most soul-stealing experiences I have had with the FNaF formula. Mainly just because literally nothing happens. Almost everything in this game is static, so there is very little to no visual stimulation at all in this game. Which, like I said, is fine because this game was probably made by a 12-year-old, but Jesus, it is really boring. After a while, the humor of the stolen assets and quality of the cameras start to wear off, and you're just left with an extremely lifeless experience. This game's lore is also very funny too. Apparently the game takes place in 2023. The phone guy in this game is just a text-to-speech program supposedly created by a character named Steven Schmidt, who is apparently the son of Mike Schmidt from the first game. No, not Michael Afton, the true honest-to-God name of the protagonist from FNaF 1. We play as William Afton's grandson in this game too, which doesn't make any sense since considering by this time everyone in the Afton family f***ing died. I wanted to play the entire game to get all the phone calls, but after this happened to me on night 2, I couldn't bring myself to restart the night. Overall, FNaF Murder Location is setting us off at a better start than I thought it would, but that's still not a high bar. This game did provide some entertainment, but that still doesn't mean it was an enjoyable experience. Now, I'm going to be a lot harder on this game than I will be on the other two, and the reason why that is because this game carries a goddamn Trojan. Finding a safe way to play this game for this video was absolutely not worth it, and I recommend anyone else wanting to do the same to just not. Nothing like this is potentially worth infecting your PC. One last thing that I want to mention about this game is that the icon for its program is called FNaF Maker, which is what this game was built in. Looking the game up on the Game Jolt page, it seems to be a very simple base for amateur coders to easily make a classic FNaF style game. Kinda like Mario Maker, but for FNaF. It doesn't really have much to do with the fan game itself, but it's an interesting fact judging that I had no idea such software existed before researching this video. But with that over with, let's move on.
Again, we're just gonna be playing the same
thing.
Broken!
I mean, is there really much to say about this one? Remember that meme from like a year ago where people would simplify the FNaF characters' names and draw them as shown? Well, someone decided to make an entire game about that, if you could really call it a game. Fetty the game doesn't really have any gameplay. Its first mode is just a slideshow of a ton of Fetty variants. At first, I thought this was the whole game, but I relaunched the game and I tried to play a different mode. Apparently, this is a reskin of a Scratch game called Doofus, as Springs informs me. Oh no!
Oh my god, it's freaking,
It's Scratch.
It's Doofus. Are you playing Doofus?
I couldn't find the game, but I'll take his word for it. So I'm editing this video, and apparently Doofus is the name of the first game Scott Cawthon's ever created, and that's what he was referencing here. Here's a clip of me graciously beating the game.
This is literally how Doofus works.
You didn't chew on that meat.
You didn't juju on that beat.
Now this segment is incredibly short, so why don't I drop some Fetty lore on all of you. About 2 years ago on the FNaF subreddit, a modeler named ArtistMonster24 posted a 3D model they made of a Freddy figure concept. This would become a pretty popular post for a bit, enough to get the attention of Scott Cawthon, who commented, "I want this to be real so badly." So yeah, Scott Cawthon has canonically acknowledged the existence of Fetty. Take that as you will. But now, we are going to be moving on to the most obscure FNaF fan game, the one that is on the absolute bottom of the page. Without keeping you waiting any longer, let's talk about 7 Nights with Doggies demo, the most obscure Game Jolt FNaF fan game. Who manages them? So what if I told you that the most obscure FNaF fan game, a program that should be broken and unplayable, even worse than the last 2 games before us, is the best in this lineup? And not just by the standards of the last 2, but a game that is genuinely competent and has a lot of mechanics that I think are not only creative but innovative. You'd think I'm lying, but I can confidently say that 7 Nights with Doggies demo is a solid FNaF fan game. It's honestly crazy to me that this is the game that is completely at the bottom. It's just a 1-night demo, so there isn't much content, but for what it is, it has a solid foundation to it. The developer of this game seems to be Russian, but they even took the courtesy to make an English version of the game too. It starts with a cutscene of this guy reading a text message. I'll give this part to Pass Me, he could read it out. Okay, let's read this. Dogline. You will be besieged to Gorod, the Vilko territory tonight. While Alexei will be in your place, hope you can handle it there. 3rd June 2005, 1650, from Sergey. Dogline. Obviously, English is not this person's first language, so I won't be too hard on them because of the bad grammar. The fact that this game starts with a setup cutscene alone raises the bar much higher than the last 2 games we covered. But after this, we get taken right into the night gameplay. In this demo, there only seems to be 2 active characters, the bear in the music box, and Doggy. Now, I think this is a good time to mention the big elephant in the room. This game almost entirely uses real-life assets to make up its environment. No more dissimilar to the same approach that the Five Nights at Wario's games take.
Well, I guess it's just that real.
Honestly, I think it works in this game's favor too. The environments may not be solely original, but the editing done to them doesn't feel too forced and is pretty consistent. The non-moving fire on the music box camera is pretty funny though. But that takes us to the one huge criticism I have with this demo. The music box drains way too fast. I can barely even manage the game's second mechanic, more on that in a second, without having to make sure this thing is wound up every 3 seconds. The jump scare from this animatronic is instant too, so it's not like you even have a semblance of a chance like when the puppet gets loose in FNaF 2. The other character that you need to worry about, Doggy, actually killed me a couple of times because I didn't understand his mechanic. So the way that you fend off the threats in this game is kind of a reverse of how you do it in Flumpties 2. On your camera, you can see the gazebo that you're stationed at. When Doggy is about to attack you, he will be standing right on top of the gazebo. The way to fend him off is by turning to the other side of your location and lighting a candle with your lighter. After which, Doggy will appear in your office, and if the light is on, he will go away. Personally, I really like this mechanic. Having your camera be stationed to where you can fully see your office is such a clever idea and can really only work in an outdoor environment like this. I really want to see other fan games try to do this sometime. We don't really get many fan games that are set in an outdoor area, so I hope someone down the line will take inspiration from this and put it into a more refined product. Actually fending off Doggy when he got into this position was super tedious at first. The lighter is placed all the way to the middle of your mouse. But I didn't realize this at first, and I actually tried to click the candle with the part of the lighter that actually lights things. After a minute of frustration, I did eventually figure out how to light it though. The candle also has a pretty simple but unique mechanic. You are given a wax meter at the top left, and you are tasked to manage it while fending off against Doggy. If you run out of wax, you are then left vulnerable to attack. The nights in this game are also 8 minutes in length exactly, going from 12 AM to 8 AM, which is fine. That's still about the average length of a FNaF night, so it's just more of a cosmetic change if anything. Once you beat the night, a message in Russian appears. I assumed that this was your usual end of demo message, so I put it through a translator and I was right. The message reads like this. Thanks for playing. So far, this is a demo version of the game, and it is still raw. Updates will be frequent, but if you find a bug, then describe it to the VK group. 7 Nights of Doggy, official band. Well, raw it was. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that this game is dead. There is literally zero information on the page, and I think the creator has long abandoned the project. It's honestly a shame too. This game genuinely had decent premises for what it was. If there are updates to the visuals, knights, and some new mechanics over time, I would say that this would be a fairly competent FNaF fan game. I hope that by chance, the developer may pass by this video, and if you are watching, please pick up this project again. I would love to see it finished. So that was the world of the most obscure FNaF fan games. We looked at the good, the bad, and the ugly all in this video. Honestly, I'm really glad that we got these documented when I did. Of course, now these games are a lot more well known thanks to this video, so they will truly not be the most obscure FNaF fan games anymore. But you know what? That's okay. You can never truly pinpoint the most obscure in a genre that has been expanding for the past 8 years now. But personally, I think there is no better representation to the most obscure FNaF fan games than the ocean floor of Game Jolt. And for that, I am satisfied with the outcome that we got through this. Once again, special thanks to GoldenTrashCan for making this video possible, and to Mr Springs as well for volunteering on this crazy expedition. Well, that's about all I have to say now, so I'll be signing off here. I have been Dags, and until next time, see ya.
Hello, everybody. My name is...